And welcome to the PEFC International Webinar, Building a Better Future with Certified Timber Together. So we will focus on sustainable construction through the use of certified timber. So whilst people are still coming in, we are expecting a few hundreds of people. We're going to launch a poll. And you should see appearing on your screen now the question. Here we go. So the question is, what percentage of carbon emitted by fossil fuel use, right, whatever that use is, but all fossil fuel use, do forests absorb every year? So we're giving you a few more seconds to quickly make your selection, and we're going to stop the poll now. So it was only 30 seconds to answer, but thank you very much everyone for participating. And 56% of you, or 56% of respondents have selected 38%, which is the correct answer. So there's a huge 38% of carbon absorbed by forests, the human, I would call it the human-caused carbon. Hence the importance of forest. So today we are joined by some experts in their domain. So three speakers. Mr. Mark Wayne Probert, who is Sales Director UK and Ireland on behalf of Binderholz. Mark Wayne will take us through the manufacturing journey from sustainably managed forest to innovative mass engineered timber technology. Mr. Paul Jarquin, President and founder of REI Habitat, who is the first property developer in France to become PEFC certified. And Paul will focus on the situation and opportunities in France within the more recent announcement from the government. And last but not least, Mr. Mark Thompson, Director Architect, first and foremost, and Director of Eco-Effective Solutions. Mark will focus in on why architects should be specifying certified timber, and he will take us through also some of the inherent properties of timber in building and the timber role in climate change mitigation. And I'm Fabienne Sinclair, Head of Marketing for PEFC International, and I will be moderating this session. So this session is planned to last an hour, really. We will end at 12. We'll each take you through a little bit about how stories vis-a-vis our love of wood, but also what we are working on. You can post your questions. You can write and type your question in your screen. You should see a Q&A button that will be at the bottom of your screen, I believe. So you can click on it, type your questions. If your question is specifically for one of us, either specific question for Mark Wayne, for Paul, for Mark, or myself, please just mention the first name as you begin your question, so that it will help us when we go through the Q&A. So thank you for that. So first and foremost, really, let's talk a little bit about forest, right, and PEFC's role, because at the end of the day, this is part of the core subject of today. As you know, forests play a critical role, many different roles, in fact, as you can see on this picture, whether it's biodiversity conservation, water purification, or flood mitigation, local community engagement and protection, and of course the forest is a renewable resource for products such as sustainable construction. And if we focus a little bit more on forest and people, really the forest products are employing a huge amount of people. So that's 13.2 million people globally are employed by the forest industry, and those are formal jobs. There's about 41 million of informal jobs. Not only that, but forest also directly affects people's livelihoods, with 20% of the world's population being supported by forest, whether it's through food, whether it's through you know, the source for heating, charcoal, and so on. So every one of us is connected to forest. And at least, of course, the connection is very obvious when we think about the air we breathe. So the other dimension of our connection is through the air and the contribution to climate mitigation. We talk about what we call the 3 S's, being carbon sequestration, second one being carbon storage, so the carbon being stored in the tree that is cut, but it also remains stored in the product that is derived from that tree. And of course, carbon substitution. And here, this is where we go into all the technology and the innovation that we see today on the market to replace some of the plastic, some of the concrete, some of the steel. So regardless of the sector, this industry sector, whether it's construction or packaging, there is a huge innovation around substitution that provide forest. You will, or you might have already read how the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the FAO, the IPCC, some governments, and many more organizations, whether they're public or private, all recognize and encourage sustainable forest management. And this is really where PEFC comes in. So for those of you who may not know PEFC, it's the program for the endorsement of forest certification. We are a global NGO dedicated to forest. That's our DNA, and it has been for the last 21 years, as far as PEFC International is concerned. And we are an alliance of 48 endorsed national forest certification systems. Those systems are assessed and endorsed by PEFC International. So if I take our 3 speakers, in each of their respective countries, we have PEFC France, PEFC UK, or Responsible Wood for our member in Australia. And there's over 1 million forest owners who are PEFC, who have their forest PEFC certified, so this is huge. And even bigger is the number of hectares at global level, which are PEFC certified, that's 300 million hectares. Putting that in context, it's about 5 times the size of France. It's about 38 times the size of Austria. I'm saying Austria because that's the HQ of Binderholt, and 42% of Australia. Now, think about how big Australia is. And so we have, PEFC has really the leadership on hectares. In terms of the supply chain, 20,000 certified companies can help you benefit for responsible sourcing of timber. So all that volume is going through companies operating in the supply chain across different sectors. So PEFC offers you global availability of certified material, and I insist through a very strong local expertise. So we have, in green, you see here on the map, those 48 members who are PEFC endorsed. Overall, 73% of global certified forests are certified to the PEFC standard. And what you can see in the table on the right-hand side is the 3 countries of our speakers and their companies, their organization, where again here PEFC really has the leadership in the certified forest out of those hectares that are certified. And also, if you look at the below countries, basically where the timber for sustainable construction, for mass engineered timber construction comes from. So that timber, whether it's from our member SFI in the US or some of our Nordic members, that timber is also coming from at large PEFC certified forest. So how does it work to ensure that the journey between the forest and your house or your building is certified? So there are really 2 core fundamental parts of forest certification. On one hand, you have the forest certification, sustainable forest management, and that, of course, in a very simplistic way, is about providing healthy forest ecosystems, healthy workers, healthy communities. If you want to read the full document, it's about 20 pages and over 200 criteria. But in summary, this is the foundation. And also linked to that, it's the chain of custody certification, which is the mechanism to enable you to get the assurance of origin from sustainably managed products, the assurance of legal compliance, and the assurance of traceability. So traceability of that timber that you are buying, that it comes from a sustainably managed forest and independently audited. PEFC is not auditing, it's independent, impartial system. So this is a really brief tour of PEFC. I am now going to hand over to our first speaker, Mark Wayne from Binderholt. So Mark Wayne, over to you.
Thank you, Fabian, and thank you, audience, for taking the time out this morning. As already said, I'm head of sales for the Binderholt Group here in the UK. I'm a director of the Timber Trade Association. I've been in the industry since 1981, becoming a master carpenter before moving on to sales and marketing and importing timber products. The use of timber, a renewable product, over time will be the product of choice for construction because of its carbon embodiment and sustainability from PEFC certified sustainable forests. Timber is not like concrete and steel, which are cold to work with. It is warm and inviting even whilst in construction. When you visit a construction site, you notice how warm building with timber really is. The timber industry is constantly innovating and improving modified and engineered wood. One key important consideration is moisture in construction, and we recently developed the protective coverings with Sega to help in the building process. When you look after timber, it can last for hundreds of years, as shown in my next slide, such as this 17th century church in Russia. All our timber is sourced within 100 miles of each location to reduce transport emissions and disturbance. Therefore, our production sites are generally deep in the forest, which would be all PEFC certified, of course. But over time, these facilities have created communities and developed into towns and cities, employing local people. Timber development is not a short-term fix. It was the first building material used by man, and now with advanced engineering, mass timber is the latest. But the fundamental properties are the same. It's a very robust product when looked after and can be reused after the lifetime, unlike other products. From the 17 goals recognized by the United Nations in 2015, we see timber fulfilling a healthy, creative industry through helping climate change and sustainability. For all PF certified forests, the standing timber must grow more than is felled, and this is very important. For every meter cube of timber manufactured, 1 ton of carbon is stored, and at the end of the building life, the timber can be reused. To have a fully supported timber business, you must control the whole ecosystem, and we do at Binder. We have our own forestry company securing over 75% of our internal needs. This means we are self-sufficient in terms of supply using PEFC certified timber. Austria, Germany, and Finland, of course, are all PEFC certified. The company is family owned and began in Fulgen, Austria in 1957. Today, it is naturally our headquarters and has developed into the most advanced mill in Europe. On site, we have a bioenergy plant producing energy for the local grid. It also offers a museum of wood, a film theatre, meeting and function rooms which can be used by the local community. There are 3 pillars of the business, so we use 100% of the product: bioenergy, basic sawn, building systems for mass timber. Having all these pillars to the business ensures we use 100% of the tree. We have over 13 locations in Germany, Austria, and now the USA, offering an internal supply chain with local sales offices. The offices are well lit and naturally ventilated to give health and well-being. When you are a leader manufacturer, you can't rely on the market to develop it. You must lead the market with all the technical information. We have completed over 200 tested superstructures for walls, floors, and roofs. We have certified tests for fire, sound, and heat. Also introducing building physics. This means literature, support tools, technical journals, new solutions, testing not only your product, but M&E solutions too. These tests were a collaboration between Binder and Hilti, looking at fire prevention, M&E holes, and channels. Transport and logistics are a major part when thinking of delivering mass timber to site. You must work with the manufacturers to understand what can be achieved by their CNC machinery and production facilities, working with them to produce standard sizes to make it easier for transportation and a no waste. Early engagement is needed. Here are some examples of timber projects we have completed. The B-Sky B building, a private house in Switzerland, a city hall in Sweden just completed. Here you can see wide spans achieved by glulam and CLT, just like concrete and steel can achieve. GSK research facility in Nottingham. Timber is great to work with. It's warm, no heavy drilling equipment is needed. It's quiet on site, so therefore no noise distribution. Less people are needed, so site safety is improved. Also speed, traditionally 35% faster than concrete and steel. Construction is slowly moving undercover to improve quality control, but also there are a lack of skilled people on site, so skilled work is developed. Engineered wood is perfect for this solution as it can be transported with no remedial work needed as in the past because of movement in transportation when traveling with light materials such as steel of frame in the past. Timber construction offers a quieter and less disturbance in the surrounding area because lorries turn up in the morning and collected the following day. No constant stream of heavy polluting concrete tracks because timber is lighter. It needs less foundation as well. The timber is pre-machined for a project, so no waste is needed. And because of these factors, less people are needed to erect the buildings, therefore reducing cost and increasing safety. The sky is the limit for the use of timber. Let's build with wood and build for the planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark Wayne. What amazing technology you have, and very importantly, I like the focus on zero waste and the fact that you are using 100% of the tree, and this is really again what we see across many industry businesses on really using and making the most of every aspect of the tree so that there is no waste. I'm now going to hand over to Paul, our second speaker. So Paul, over to you.
Hello, Fabienne. Thank you very much. Well, first, I would like to thank PEFC because I think it's a great initiative to see that there's like hundreds of people all over the world. And I think we're all from the either forestry and or wood industry. And to be able to have a moment like that is, I think, very, very nice. So as you said, I'm the chairman and founder of REI Habitat. We are a French leading company in France, a real estate developer, which builds only in wood. We also have a construction company and are involved in forestry. So as we saw with Mark, we really try to think from the forest to the building. I'm also the chairman of the French Forest and Wood Association in France. So very involved in the lobbying and all the political decision when it comes to forest and wood industry. As you know, France was and Paris, the country where we signed the COP21 agreements. So we have a feeling that France has to be a leader in tackling climate change. And as you all know, wood and forest have a huge role to play. When it comes to wood construction, we can reduce up to 60% the carbon emission of a building. So this is really a game changer. And right now we're seeing all over the world some really ambitious policies. And in France, we just, in 2020, the forest minister said that 50% of the buildings, the new public buildings, are going to be built in wood. And it's very important for France because right now we're still the country of concrete. Over 90% of our building and our construction industry is in concrete. And we're seeing a huge trade deficit, a negative trade deficit in France. We're losing 7 billion euros every year. So that's a huge problem. That's the third largest deficit post in the commercial balance in France. So we have to see that as a great opportunity for the French market and the wood industry. In France, and particularly in the big cities like Paris, we're seeing more and more demands from the consumers, the people either living or working in wooden buildings. They're asking, where does it come from forests that are managed? So PEFC has a huge role to play. And also they're asking, which forest does it come from? Does it come from deforestation? Does it come from all over the world? So this is why at REI, we've implemented a strategy where in 100% of our building, we're going to be having wood PEFC certified buildings, as well as Bois de France. And Bois de France is a certification that can track the traceability from the forest to the building, knowing exactly from which sawmill it comes, which construction company, and where it comes, and obviously the final on the construction site. So, and I like always to make a metaphor like for the agriculture industry. Right now, we're seeing more and more people which are asking for either organic, but also they want to know which producer does it come from. And this is the same we have to implement for the construction industry. Right now, I'm going to be showing you some of our projects. We have currently about 2 million square feet under construction in France, about 20 projects all over Paris. And well, I'm sorry, Fabienne, but I think it's not the slide is not moving forward. Oh yes, this is a project we're doing with no, it went to. Yeah, so this is a project we're doing with a Japanese very famous architect, Kengo Kuma. It's a small project in the center of Paris. It's obviously, as all our buildings, built 100% in wood. And there we really create a marketing because we can explain to the future buyers that it's coming from a forest in Jura. So it's about a few hundred kilometers from Paris. And we're explaining this, and this is very important for the future home buyers, and they really like that type of story. The next building is actually a wooden tower, as we just saw with Mark. Right now with innovation, we're able to build a larger scale project. This is 150 square feet, 50 meters. It's going to be built in wood. Also, we're going to try to implement some design inside where we can see the wood, but even from the outside, as you can see, the whole structure, we're not far from the Bibliothèque François Mitterrand, which is in Paris. We're looking right over the River Seine. So this is also going to be a hallmark in France for wood construction. And we're starting construction at the beginning of next year. This is a project in Nantes. Nantes is a city in the west part of France. There we show also that it's going to be built 100% in wood, the structure of the building. But then when it comes to the facade, we're using both wood and also some steel material to show that in terms of architecture, it's 150 unit buildings. But we can have a great design and great different type of facade for the buildings. Oh, last but not least, we won the competition to build the athletes Olympic Village facilities. So it's going to be it's in the Paris area. So obviously not only for Paris and for France, but that's going to be something that's going to be seen all over the world, and it's going to be built in wood. So I think it's a huge signal. It's 500,000 square feet, 50,000 square meters. And as you can see also, we're mixing material for the facade, but the structure of the building is going to be in wood structure. So this is really to show the dynamic we're seeing in France, and that even though we're the country of concrete, right now, because of the policies and players like me, and there are new players coming to the market, we're really seeing a change in the real estate industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. What fantastic and exciting project REI Habitat or REI Habitat is showing us here. And then, of course, the Olympic Village is super exciting. But also what I found is also very commendable is your dedication and support that you are giving to the whole forest industry, as well as really, pushing for local employment and local jobs. So very commendable on that part as well. Thank you, Paul. So now we're going to move to our last speaker, Mark Thompson, last but not least, before we exchange on a few questions. So Mark, if you would like to unmute yourself. Yeah, super. Over to you, Mark.
Okay, well, hello everybody, and I'm speaking to you. It's Wednesday night down here in Brisbane, Australia at the moment, and it's great and to be able to connect with you, and thank you to PEFC for this opportunity. What I'm keen to do is to share with you, I guess, the experiences of designers and architects in working with timber. And sustainability has become such an important issue for us in the design sense. And the challenge that we have is seeing this come through now in the construction sense. So instead of calling this sustainable construction, I think it's really important that we change our terminology. And I find that describing things in an eco-efficient way is a lot more effective in terms of sharing with people exactly what we're doing. And we're moving from a global and local and global society. So we're very connected around the world. So therefore, it's important to understand that the World Business Council defines eco-efficiency as creating more value with less environmental impact. And this is really the challenge that we have as designers, and in fact our whole community at the moment, in terms of delivering more value but having much less environmental impact. So eco-efficient construction then, when it's done well, involves the reduction of the material and energy efficiency of what we're doing. It involves reducing the dispersion of toxic materials. It involves improved recyclability of materials and aspects of that within our construction and building sector. It uses renewable resources, and it has an endurance about it, so that there is a greater durability of the materials that we're using. So one of the things that I learnt myself, I've been in the business, the construction business now for 30 years, and 20 years ago, I had the amazing experience of building my own home. Timber was the choice for a number of reasons. One, it was cost effective. Two, it's a natural material, and as somebody practicing sustainable architecture, I was very adamant to touch the ground gently. So the outcome of my own family home was one of the best things I did in my career. And the benefits I learned from working with builders, understanding the detailing that timber requires, and getting insights to the finishes that are required with timber has really set me up for the rest of my career. One of the benefits that timber has is its flexibility. So in the case of building my own home, working with a builder who had developed his own building system called the guitar building system, we were able to actually lay the whole house out in a factory. And here in Queensland, our weather is, we describe it as perfect one day, but it does rain a lot here. So one of the challenges we have is to ensure that we can build quickly. And the benefit that timber provided, and engineered timber in particular, so this is effectively a plywood house with LVL. And you can see that the outcome has been an assembly method which was quite quick, used much less equipment on site than what might normally happen, and the outcome actually proved to be very time and cost effective. So the other thing that I learnt is actually the beautiful qualities that timber can provide. So not only using it externally, but also internally, you get an amazing natural effect, and an effect that is actually really pleasant to live in, and very, aesthetically friendly, and gives you character in a way that you don't normally get with other materials. So the learnings of doing things in my own home have given me a strong foundation to really promote the benefits of timber. And in my own practice, eco-effective solutions, and in my role as a director of responsible wood, I'm finding now it's so important to differentiate to people why sustainable timber is eco-efficient. And there are seven points here that I'd like to share with you. That the fact that timber is renewable is really important, but you really can only be stated that when it comes from certified forests. So one of the things I've learnt over the years is that unless you know about the history of the timber, you may not be using the sustainable material that you think you are. The other thing about timber is that it can last. It is really durable when detailed correctly. And it's great that organisations and the industry and people like Binderholz are there to assist you, to help you through the detailing and the whole assembly and manufacturing processes behind timber. It can be recycled and reused, and I'll talk about that in terms of one of the characteristics a little later. But as Fabian said at the outset, the amazing thing about timber is that it absorbs CO2 and acts as a carbon sink. And as designers, it's amazing to understand that we can have such an amazing impact in designing with a material like timber. But from an environmental point of view, it's great for occupant comfort, requiring less energy than others. So they're energy efficient buildings. It's 100% biodegradable. And we're finding that the positive effects on your physical and mental health are now being recorded and proven. So next slide, thanks, Fabian. As a designer, over the last 10 years in particular, there's a much greater importance on us being responsible and making sure that we meet the requirements of our clients and also our community. So the three things that I've learned are very important is that when people are talking to you about sustainability, you understand that it is about social, economical, and environmental sustainability. But to do this really responsibly, one needs to specify well. And one can be very confused with all the labels out there. So it's really important to differentiate between the labels that provide certification and the labels that are just marketing labels. And the certification aspect is really important because it's the way in which, as a designer, I can be certain that I know what I'm getting in terms of what's being sold and what's being used in the construction of my projects. So there are many benefits then in terms of using certified timber for architects. It's one of the ways that I can satisfy to my clients that I meet building and private procurement processes, which are now becoming really important, particularly doing government and authority work. It actually meets the community standards in terms of ensuring that you are using a low embodied energy material so that the energy efficiency, not only of the building, but also the materials you're using in the building is endorsed and can be verified. But it's really important that the organisations that deal with timber understand that the chain of custody procurement method is the way in which you can be absolutely certain you know the history of the timber. And this is where PEFC has a great benefit because the chain of custody certification processes that have been developed now are global, and we're able to use these and almost be able to pinpoint where any source of any type of timber in our buildings is used. But there's another benefit we're starting to realise, which is a biophilic benefit. And the benefit of biophilia, which is something that's been known for hundreds of years, is that this actually has a tangible benefit to our health, and that there are a whole lot of positive effects that people experience in their well-being, and it can have a calming effect on people's stress levels, their blood pressure, and we're now getting information to show that educational environments built out of timber, sustainable timber, are more productive in terms of their learning and their healing processes, even when used in hospitals and health centres. So I'd now like to change tact a little bit and share with you, I guess, some of the buildings and some of the experiences that we are having here down under. Particularly, we've seen a massive trend in the last 10 years for timber being used in commercial offices. And with the advent of green rating tools, here in Australia, we have Green Star. We're seeing that timber buildings contribute a great deal to what's called indoor environmental quality. And we're getting a transformation of the internal environments that we're working with now because of this change in material, and we're seeing timber being used right through. Thanks, Fabian. I'm proud to say in my own hometown here that we had the world's tallest building, 25 King Street. And more recently, you can see that there are other university buildings that have been used, are using CLT. CLT is relatively new in Australia, but it's really taking off in a way that is revolutionising the construction industry here, for the reasons that it's cost effective, it's a beautiful material, and one of the reasons it's cost effective is it's very quick on site. So we're seeing that timber is being used in a whole range of different materials. And just recently, JCB Architecture here in Australia have achieved the first CLT passive house certification. So we're actually seeing that construction methods and efficiency in energy are being realised in these new CLT and timber buildings. So timber really is transforming our building industry here in Australia. And but the thing to be very cautious about is that we are using the right timber. The right timber is timber that comes from responsible sources. And here in Australia, responsible wood is the PEFC certified scheme that we use to ensure that our timbers are local. When not able to be local for various reasons, we can refer back to the PEFC logo to ensure that we are getting certified timber from a sustainable source. But the other challenge that we have at the moment is proving to other people that sustainability is met. And a few people have mentioned already the Sustainable Development Goals, which now give us as designers the understanding that timber has positive benefits with biodiversity, carbon storage, water use, and not only using timber buildings, but using timber products gives us a fantastic array of palette of materials that we can use to really do things that we weren't able to do previously. Thanks, Fabian. So moving forward, next slide, thanks. Moving forward, we're finding that these environmental issues that we're dealing with across the world are quite catastrophic and quite concerning, but there are good stories to be told as well, in that in the Australian fires that happened almost a year ago, we're now able to actually mill and use the timber that's been affected in these certified forests, and to actually salvage this and use it effectively. So again, this would not be the case with concrete or steel. And this is one of the reasons that timber truly is a sustainable and durable material. And despite the changes in climate and everything, timber gives us the opportunities to endure and to be truly a sustainable material. Another aspect of timber which I think is really important is not only its aesthetic qualities, but its ability to be a preferred construction material. And this particular university project has been built incredibly efficiently from a prefabricated point of view. And the unique thing about this particular building is it was designed for deconstruction. So design for deconstruction really changes the whole life cycle perspective of a building. So a building can actually be disassembled and parts of it or all of it can be relocated to another location. And in the case of this particular project, it was in a university master plan site, and they needed a building quickly. So they were able to erect this in a very quick period of time. And they know that this building will be relocated to fit in with the university master plan in a few years' time. So next slide, thanks, Fabian. So this concept of design for deconstruction is something that I think needs to be at the forefront of many people's minds, because By designing well, we can minimize complexity and ensure that different building materials have ongoing use. And the way to do this is by using simple connections, preferably making them visible, and minimizing the different types of materials in the building. So timber is the ideal material to design for deconstruction. It's a valuable material, and when documented well with as-built drawings, it gives the opportunity for owners to really benefit from the life cycle and the cost and the development of their project. And therefore, demolishing buildings, which is unfortunately too common here in Australia, will not be as necessary in the future if we design things well from here on in. So there are a couple of other projects that I'd like to share with you. So this is the inside of that Macquarie University project designed for deconstruction. And the next slide is a building, a regional building here in Western Australia. Now, one of the other privileges I've had recently is working with PEFC at the World Architecture Festival and judging the Timber Awards. And this was the award winner last year. And as you can see, this is an incredibly beautiful, but more importantly, efficient and cost-effective building, which has been sourced from PEFC materials and is now absolutely loved by its community. You can see that its qualities of light and the simple use of timber is timeless, and the construction methods have been used so that it's a very simple and a very effective way to achieve a very high quality building in a remote location. So another project coming up that I'd like to share with you is also a World Architecture Festival winner. And for those architects out there who may be listening, I do encourage you to submit your timber projects to the World Architecture Festival because you will contribute to what I see as a growing transformation of architecture using not just timber, but other sustainable materials as well. This particular building has really changed the economic spans for timber here in Australia, and a building being built hopefully next year is going to be the world's tallest timber hybrid building for a major organisation called Atlassian. So we're starting to see timber really taking off here in Australia in a way that we haven't seen before with other materials. And it's really exciting to see, after having been to Europe the last few years, to see Australia and areas here in Southeast Asia really starting to embrace timber construction and the technology and the opportunities that timber offer. So I think it pretty well wraps up what I was hoping to share with you, but there are a couple of takeaway messages, which are that eco-efficient construction must use sustainable materials. And from my experience, mass engineered timber is so cost-effective and quick that it's the reason it's really being embraced by the building industry at the moment. But it also keeps giving in that it has life cycle benefits, health benefits, and for those of us that are really concerned about the environment, it provides social responsibility. The opportunity to specify materials contributes to you doing the right thing, and eco-efficient construction is definitely going to be here to stay. And the key message I wish to leave with you is that don't use any sort of wood. The wood that you use in your projects must be certified to be sustainable. And it's great to have local schemes like Responsible Wood and then global schemes like PEFC to provide that certification and that you are using a verified material. So I hope that's been interesting for you and gives you a quick snapshot of what's been happening down here in Australia. And it's exciting to see how we're now really starting to catch up and in fact, hopefully take over the sustainable materials and eco-efficient construction techniques that are being used around the world. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark. Again, what an expertise and the devotion that to sustainable architecture that you are showing through starting with your own project, but expanding to making other people benefit from it. So I find the biophilia so interesting. I certainly experience it in my own house. So thank you. So now we're going to open the floor to a few questions. We have 10 minutes to do so, and I will actually change a little the order and go straight to some of the questions from the audience. Let me also stop sharing so we can have full view of all of us. Now, I would like to answer to one question from Julie Nicolas, as far as maybe I wasn't clear enough. So in terms of the question is, I'm not sure I understood, Fabienne. You've said that there was no audit with PEFC. So there are audits. Every forest is audited, or forest managers and individual certificates of forest are audited, and each step of the supply chain. So whether it's the mill, the sawmill, the pulp mill, the joinery, and so on and so forth, depend on which sector you are in. But each step, each manufacturer that is involved in the processing of PEFC certified timber has to be certified and therefore has to be audited. We at PEFC, we do not audit. This is the job of certification bodies that are that we train on our standards and have the responsibility to audit against our criteria. So everything is audited against our standards. It's just that we leave that to the expert to do for full impartiality. So I hope this clarifies this. Right, okay, so I can see some of the questions as well in terms of using the PEFC label before I address the panelists. So in terms of the PEFC label, you can of course use the PEFC label. If you're looking at your final project, you must ensure that your suppliers are supplying you with certified timber, with PEFC certified timber. And you can also work with the project certification. So your house, your building can be project certified to enable you to then really promote it as such. So this is one specificity to the construction sector. All right, then maybe Paul, if you would like to, ask also, either take on a question that you've seen would be quite important to share with a wider audience. Might need to unmute yourself.
Yes. Well, I saw a question about the reaction of people. Do they like wood, more the marketing aspects? And we've done some research and some marketing studies in France, and it was really amazing because we compared the wood product to steel product to concrete product, and to see how people were reacting to that in terms of living in a house built in wood. And we saw that over 80% of the people were very attracted by wood, saying that it was warming, it was natural, and they had like a very, very positive view on it. And it was by far amongst the other material, the one they felt more comfortable with. And I saw also maybe some people saw the TED from Michael Green, which is a Canadian architect. I recommend to check it. And he talks also about that, and Mark has talked about that it's very, people even touch wood sometimes in buildings, because it's natural. So that's something we will never see with concrete, for example. And well, maybe one of the question I had for the other panelists was about that, because obviously, as I explained, in France right now, we're really seeing a move on both the local aspect, where does the forest, where does the wood come from? And also, is wood becoming more and more attractive? What's the relationship from the clients? Maybe that's a question for both Mark.
So I might try answering that. We're finding here in Australia that the builders are actually really championing the use of wood because they see it as being a very quick way to build and also quite a cost-effective way to build. And Paul, I was quite interested to see that in France, 50% of your buildings need to be made from wood, which is quite remarkable. Is that something that is being monitored, or is that just an aspiration at the moment?
Well, at this point, it's for the public building, especially for the something we call the public developers, because we have a lot of land that's owned by the government and that's being sold. There are no taxes if it's not done, but it's a real commitment, from the French government. So we're not yet in a world where there's a carbon tax in the construction industry or big penalties if not going to be doing it. But they have to put their best efforts, and obviously they're going to be audited. And in 5 years we'll see if they were able to meet the goals. But at least we're seeing it's a very good sign that those political announcements are really showing the way, and the private sector is also obviously following the public demand.
Okay.
So Mark, you must be seeing a great uptake in the use of engineered timber. Are you seeing that as a percentage increase in your work, or is it just a general increase?
I think in the UK it's been pretty steady with regards to the use of mass engineered timber, such as cross-laminated timber and glulam. But where I see increases in this product is for modular construction or panelized system. The use of cross-laminated timber started off mainly for school buildings, because it gives a very, very nice warm building. It's easy to work in. In fact, I brought some Finnish politicians over a number of years ago, 50 in all, and we looked at some various schools, and they were totally impressed by the way that the school children were adapted to timber construction. And what the school teachers said in most of the schools, that the children were more alert and stayed more alert. And this is great news coming from people using the building rather than us telling them these facts. So I do see an uptake in mass timber. Very much so, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Would we
Can I
have...
take a question?
Yes.
There was one here from Rambir Sai Nadav. What may be the reason in the US the furniture buyer asked for FSC certified products over PEFC? Within the Binderholz group, all our forests are PEFC. We could have dual certification, that isn't a problem. But our managing director and owner has basically said, what is the point of bringing forest further afield into the production line when we have local forests? And I think that the developers and the people asking for FSC should understand that there are two certification schemes, but use the one closest to the product. It's quite as simple as that.
Yes, very well said. And at PEFC, we always advocate for inclusive policies. So exactly that, it also match what is relevant at that point in time to a project. So I guess thank you very much. I will just put back a slide. Here we go. So just a few, so a big thank you to Mark Wayne, Paul, and Mark. Just before closing off, I would like to invite you to check on 3 events. The first one is from our PEFC Netherlands member, who has worked on a fantastic book, Tomorrow's Timber, with a choir that has been written by PEFC. Encourage you to look at it. If you want to know more, you need to follow that link that you can see. On behalf of PEFC UK, you are invited to some CPDs whether you are architects, designers, specifier, or suppliers, you are invited to CPDs. Again, go and check the next dates beyond 20th of January on this link. And the third is, as Mark mentioned, PEFC sponsors the Best Use of Certified Timber Prize, together organized by the World Architecture Festival. Entries are still open for the 2020 award. So if you have projects using PEFC certified timber and project certified, please go and check and enter your project for a chance to win an international recognition. So this is time to, again, to say thank you to our panelists. Thank you to all of you for listening. I hope you've learned something. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't hesitate to reach out. You can follow us on those social media platforms to find out what are the next events and what are the PEFC news. You can visit our website. I have dropped my email address here. I will be not answering during Christmas period, but please, we will also copy paste all the questions that have been posted by you today and answer them by email. So again, thank you very much. Have a lovely end of year, and speak to you on another occasion. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Bye. Thank you.